All right, thank you for staying with us. The conversation is, as we usually do here, is something very important as well, especially in our society at this time. You might call it endemic, and that has to do with drug issues, as we have seen in recent times. By the way, today is International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, every 26th day in the month of June every year. And from document available on the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. That is what we are having today. And the theme for this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking is the evidence is clear. Invest in prevention. Invest in prevention. And that is exactly why we are having this conversation. And we have the gentlemen, both virtually and physically, joining us today to speak on these issues. Medically, we are joined via phone call by Dr. Ayorinde, Ayoyinka. He is a senior registrar, Department of Mental Health, OAUTHC, Ile-Ife. He will be giving us the medical, angle to drug-related, issues that we are having. Dr. Ayoyinka, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, thank you. And of course, we have in the house Assistant Commander Ibrahim Yusuf, Chikaji, Assistant State Commander of Operations and Training, NDLEA, Osun State Command, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Good morning, my pleasure, please.
Good to have you. And okay, Dr. Ayoyinka, kindly hang in there. Let me start from Assistant Commandant Ibrahim Yusuf Chikaji. Today, as we said earlier, is a day that we're having the conversation against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. I'd like your organization, and of course, under the leadership of General Buba Marwa, retired, since he came into office. Even before then, you have been trying your bit to make sure we have, as much as possible, drug-free society. Now, let me ask you, as an enforcer, as one who works in this particular crime, how much of a problem is drug in our society right now? And when we say drug, what exactly are we referring to?
Thank you. The drug problem is not a problem we can play down. It's a serious problem because it affects every aspect of human endeavor. And from the enforcement point of view, drug can be defined as any substance, either natural or synthetic, that when taken into the body affects the way the brain, the mind, and the body functions. The doctor can define it from the medical point of view. His definition might be a bit different from mine. But basically, as far as NDLEA is concerned, drugs can be defined as any substance, either natural or synthetic, that when taken into the body affects the way the brain, the mind, and the body works.
How much of a problem is this in our society, as far as Nigeria is concerned today?
It's really a problem. Because the major problem we're even facing now is not even the conventional drugs. There are substances that they are easily accessible, and they are substances of abuse. So that's why when we are talking of drugs now, we talk of drugs and substances of abuse. It will amaze you. There are substances we come in contact with daily, either in the house or in the office. But when concocted together, they can give the same high as the same conventional drugs, You
might want to speak about some of these?
I might not want to speak about it because I don't want my audience, especially the youth, to become science students. Don't want them to experiment.
But then we still have to talk about it so that either the young people you're talking about or caregivers or parents, can note if actually some of this, because for the young people, you say major. Is it a young people problem, really? Or is it a society problem?
It's a societal problem, but majorly the targeted group or the most prevalent group are the youth.
Prevalent group are the youth.
Yes.
You know, I understand that, you know, sometimes when you talk about these things, it becomes attractive to some people. Some persons want to try it out, but then we still have to, you know, coin the conversation in a way that older people or young people who sees other people trying some of those things will know that this is not just ordinary, because especially for our older people, they might not know that, you know, this thing that this young boy, this young girl is doing amounts to drugs. But please hang in your thought. Let me go to Dr. Ayoyinka. Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Yeah, same question. When we talk about drug, what exactly are we referring to? This kind of conversation right now, and how much of an issue you work with OAUTHC, that's a teaching hospital, and you work in the mental health department. So I know you know fully what I'm talking about. When we say drugs, what are we referring to? And from the medical point of view, how problematic is it in our society as of today?
Yes, thank you for having me again.
You're welcome.
Well, the definition given by the commandant is actually on point. The major thing I just want to add to it is the fact that, like he said, substances are anything that is taken with the knowledge of and with the activity on the brain, which affects a lot of functioning, physical functioning, psychological well-being, and every other thing that makes an human being. The drugs we are talking about are substances that, once taken, they exert their effect on the brain and the function of the central nervous system. As a result, it disorganizes a lot of things: thinking, coordination, behavior, and every other thing. Now, so it can be of different variants, of wide types and variants. There are some, like he rightly said, that are not known to be substances, but they find a way these days to make it intoxicating, and it becomes a drug of abuse. Now, talking of the statistics and how much of a problem this thing is, according to the National Bureau of Statistics in 2018, about 14 million people in Nigeria uses one type of substance or another. Of this, alcohol and tobacco seems to take the larger chunk. And we are talking of about 25% of Nigerians getting involved with alcohol use. This shows that it is a big problem. And the alcohol is usually a gateway to introduce other substances. You talk of cannabis, you talk of opioids, you talk of cocaine and other drugs. This has become so much problematic that in our encounter in the hospital these days, we see more of substance users than other psychiatric problems that is not related to substance. It is indeed a very big problem.
All right, so Dr. Ayoyinka, permit me to come in at this point. Now, you've talked about the issue relating to drug use and abuse, and I'd like to go to the core root rather. Why youth, majorly youth, like Comrie said, that use these drugs is because most of the time of mental health issues. They use it as coping mechanisms so they can be okay. So I'd like to ask, how do you think people can actually support themselves mentally instead of tilting towards the use of drugs and its abuse?
Okay, yes, it's like this. Yes, I agree. Some people, some, not all, get into substance use as a means to cope with daily life and stress and the likes. But majority are actually due to other things. Probably it's weak ego. Probably it's because they have some societal pressure and pressure groups. It depends. However, one thing is important: education and orientation about this thing I think it takes the front row. It should take the front role in this in prevention. If an individual understands the consequence and that there are other options than getting involved in substance, I believe it's better for the individual to then think twice before starting it. There is this Chinese proverb we use when we're educating about this thing. Of course, I'll say it in English. It says that a man takes a bottle, the bottle takes a bottle, then the bottle takes the man. So, if I may explain that, an individual tries, experiments with something that is psychoactive. Eventually, the psychoactive substance itself takes over the use. Eventually, the psychoactive substance takes over the person. And that is when an individual becomes almost useless. So if before taking the first one, you have your knowledge, you have the orientation, you are educated about it, that this is going to be a road that will lead to destruction, it's more likely for an individual to not encourage such acts than if they are not aware of it. So I think another thing is, if an individual is in any need and think the psychoactive substance use is the next thing, there are help around. Visit a psychiatrist, visit a psychologist, visit a general practitioner. We have the knowledge, we have the know-how to help such situations. Some people, it's just a few sessions that will actually encourage and build their self-esteem and ego and things like that. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to, someone to listen to them, and probably guide them aright. And I think that is better than going into the substance enforcement.
All right. So let's talk about substance use, substance abuse, and substance addiction. I know as a practitioner, you know, there are 3 different stages. I'd like you to shed more light on that. Substance use, substance abuse. When does a person commit substance use? When does a person begin to abuse these drugs? And when does this person become addicted? And how does someone know that he's already addicted to this drugs or substance?
Okay, so substance use simply refers to an individual making use of a substance, alcohol, cigarettes, anything. So that is the use. Misuse or abuse is when an individual takes, for example, alcohol. We have the weekly requirement, which is said to be in the normal range, not pathological, not problematic. For example, an individual taking up to not more than 14 units of alcohol. I said unit, not bottle.
Okay.
In a week with staggered days. So in a 7-day week, takes 14 units of alcohol, and it's not more than 3 days in that week that the person uses such substance. But overall for that week is not more than 14. That is still not an abuse. It is still in the normal use, normal range. But the moment the individual takes every day more than 14 units of alcohol per day and the likes, it's already becoming an abuse. It's becoming misuse.
We use misuse
more.
For people that may not understand the word unit, because you said unit does not actually mean bottles.
Yes.
So
yes.
What's the measurement for unit?
Well, we have a calculation we do for it, but something to make it easier. Most bottle of beer is between 3 to 4 units.
Okay.
Most bottle of beer is between 3 to 4 units. All those dry gin, those small shots, they are more of 1.5 to 2 units each.
Okay.
So if an individual can use that to estimate, once it's going beyond, actually we don't usually recommend using alcohol in the first place if there's no need for it. But if it's occasional and things like that, but not more than the recommended units. Now, once an individual there is this constellation of symptoms, of psychological symptoms that makes what you refer to as, we call it dependency, you call it addiction.
All right.
Once an individual cannot control the use, has this strong urge that they cannot resist to use any form of substance.
Yeah.
An individual has what we refer to as symptoms of withdrawal after the level of that substance reduces in their system. There's what we call tolerance, in which an individual increases the dose of usage to achieve the exact intended aim. That's the fourth one. The fifth one, an individual understands, knows that there is danger, there is physical and psychological damage that can be done from this substance use, yet they cannot stop using it. And the last one, an individual abandon every other pleasurable activity or event in their lives for substance use.
All right.
Once we have seen 3 to 6 of these symptoms in an individual in the past 1 year, we can actually say the person is dependent on the substance, which is generally referred to as being addicted to the substance.
Okay. Let me pause your thoughts there. Thank you for that. Assistant Commander Chikaji, let's move over to the illicit trafficking of these drugs, which is like majorly where you function. In Nigeria, help us out. How has this been? Like the rate of trafficking of these drugs? I know that NDLEA has been, putting in a lot of work to ensure that they curtail this to the barest minimum. But I'd like to know the rate at which you are, the level of, prevention you are going on with in your own agency. How do you think we've cut down illicit trafficking? Because I know of people, even in rural areas, in villages, that traffic those drugs, that hide under, the bushes or in their homes in the villages to sell these drugs to youths who take it to other cities. So I'd like you to tell us more about the illicit trafficking in the country.
Thank you very much. You see, I want to align my thoughts with what the doctor has just said. You see, the drug problem is like it's like supply and demand in economics. As long as the demand is there, the supply will definitely be there. It's the demand that is propelling the supply. Because once the demand is there, the suppliers are ready to take maximum risk to get those things to the people demanding it. And that's the problem we're facing. As much as we're trying, the influx of drugs is more of on the increase. Let me just take Osun State, for example.
Yes, please.
I have served in Osun State in the year 2009 to 2014. I left and came back 2023. The dynamics I met when I came back was far, far different from what it was before. In those previous years, the major problem we had in Osun State was the local cannabis. But now, it's a different ballgame.
Called Igbo?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The local cannabis called Igbo, the one cultivated in Osun State. Because Osun State is one of the cannabis cultivating states.
It's cultivated here?
Yes.
Wow.
We have forests of cannabis farms in Osun. We've discovered so many, we've destroyed. But these days, the problem we're having is the influx of these new strains of cannabis. We have the SK, that's the skunk. We have the loud, the Arizona, the Colorados. And the loud is of different categories. You have the Canadian loud, then you have the local loud. So that's the problem we're facing. In Osun State, as I speak now, there's no day, no single day I send my officers on the road that will not intercept consignment of drugs coming into Osun State. And they come as waybills, unaccompanied. Because of the advancement in technology, you can sit down in the comfort of your room and order for drugs, and it will be supplied to you. So majorly, that's the problem we're facing. They come in as waybills from Lagos, from Ibadan. There's no single day. As I speak to you now, my officers are on the road. And any moment from now, I'm expecting a call. It's a daily occurrence. So you see, the problem, or what I want to urge indigenes of Osun State is, please, let's join hands together. we are sitting on a time bomb as far as the drug issue is concerned. And the major problem is, you see little quantity. You might just see it physically is very small, but when you hear the value, for instance, if you have a little quantity of Colorado, by the time you hear the value, you'll be amazed. So in Osun State today, mostly people don't even patronize the local cannabis. They call it local. It's no more being patronized. It's these stronger strains.
These stronger strains, they're coming from outside of the country, or they are being,
majorly they come out from outside the country. Then they started, manufacturing the local one into these stronger strains. They go through chemical processes in the lab, and they enhance the potency. Yes, synthesized. So that's what we have presently in Osun State.
Assistant Commander Chikaji, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the theme for this year is the evidence is clear, just like you have said.
Yes.
I think the evidence is clear enough.
Yeah.
And it's saying invest in prevention.
Yes.
Okay. Because many persons, when they hear about NDLEA, then it's about enforcement, it's about arrest.
Yes.
How is NDLEA working in prevention? First of all, it's like you are aligned to that prevention is better. You know, as they said, prevention is better than cure. What is your agency doing that before you get to the point of arrest? Or is arrest a part of prevention as well? What essentially doing about prevention?
Okay, now, you see, that's why the Chairman Chief Executive Officer of NDLEA, Brigadier General Muhammad Buba Marwa, retired, in his wisdom, came up with this scheme called WADA, War Against Drug Abuse. It was launched on the 26th of June, 2021 by the former President Muhammad Buhari. And ever since we started that scheme, we have seen considerable improvement in the knowledge, public knowledge. And in Osun State here, my state commander mandated all area commands and all units. Every week, you must carry out sensitization programs, at least 3 or 4 in a week. We go to primary schools, secondary schools, tertiary institutions, workplaces, marketplaces, motor parks. We've had sessions with the Osun State Transport Management Company, because majorly we've been having an encounter with their drivers that normally collect way bills and bring in these drugs. Some of them know, some of them don't know. So we had sensitization and lectures for them to educate them. Because it's a common sense can just, infer that, okay, now you are carrying a passenger from Ibadan to Osun, 3,000, and somebody came with a small package and is ready to pay 10,000 for that package. You should know that it's not an ordinary package. Though some of these drivers are aware because of the monetary gains they collect, while some innocently. I had a case recently. The driver collected just 2,000 for a package of Colorado that is worth almost 500,000. He just saw it as a normal package, and he kept it on the dashboard, because he doesn't know what is there. But we've seen drivers that collect this package and put in their spare tires.
That means they are aware.
That means they are aware. So you see, it's a problem that it's not supposed to be left for NDLEA alone. All hands must be on deck. Because at the initial stage, the drug problem might be the person's problem. But in the long run, it becomes everybody's problem. Because by the time the person becomes a nuisance, it affects virtually everybody, even the society. Because prevention, they say, is better. But to me, I feel prevention is even cheaper than cure.
Cheaper than cure. And we are due for a break right now, just in 15 seconds or 30 seconds before we take that break. You made mention, and that got to me. You said you do go to primary schools.
Yes.
I want to ask, what are you doing there, primary schools?
It's better to catch them young.
Okay.
Because if you don't talk to them, somebody else will talk to them.
Mm.
And it might be the dealers or somebody that will want to lure them into substance abuse. So it's better we and the parents talk to them first.
Yeah. Like catch them young.
Catch them young.
All right. Thank you. Please hold the thought. Dr. Ayoyinka will be back with you shortly. Please kindly hang in. And we've been talking about the International Day, which is today, against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. We go on this quick break. We'll be back for the rest of the conversation. It's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Stay with us.